Thank you everyone for being here tonight. My name is Carol and I am the founder of Parentally. We are a platform that helps new and future parents find extra care and support at every stage of their parenthood journey, so during pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and their first years of parenthood. Tonight we're going to talk about postpartum and emotional health, and our guest is Dr. Naomi Gibson. She's a psychologist and she's been a member of Parentally for a little while now. Naomi, would you like maybe to start by introducing yourself?
As Carol said, I'm a clinical psychologist and I have a private practice here in Amsterdam working with parents and parents-to-be. And I also run a weekly group therapy for mums, which runs at the Labour Department. And yeah, I see people face to face and online in the Netherlands.
Cool. And we are actually going to talk more about that group therapy for moms that you are organizing at the Labour Department. But first, I would like to start talking a bit about postpartum and how to take care of our emotional health during this phase of our life. Maybe just to start, I would like to clarify what is postpartum, maybe for some people who are not really familiar with this term. And it simply designates the phase that is right after birth. And some people say that it's 6 weeks. Some people say that it's 3 years. So it really depends. What do you think about that?
I mean, once you have a baby, you're always postpartum, as far as I see it. There's like a more kind of a window of it being maybe particularly harder or vulnerable, but yeah, it's kind of, in terms of your emotional mental health, it's everything post baby is postpartum in a sense.
And having a baby, I think for everyone who's already had a baby, we realize that it's really a life transforming event, and it's a lot of it's a big transition and a lot of adaptation to the new life, to the new person you become, so both physically but also emotionally and mentally. I wanted to ask you, what are, according to you, some of the most common emotional challenges that new mothers are going to face during this postpartum period?
It's such a vulnerable time emotionally, you know, as you said, there's huge physical changes, and depending how pregnancy was and birth, there's lots of reasons why you might feel more emotionally vulnerable. Things like worry and anxiety are around a lot more, sort of worrying about the baby's well-being and worrying about lots of things, many things you can worry about with a baby. Also kind of changes in mood, feeling more low in mood perhaps. And sleeping less. Sleep deprivation makes everything a lot harder in life. We all know that if you've had a bad night's sleep, but add that with the responsibilities of being a new parent is much harder, so it makes things like anxiety and worry and low mood a bit worse sometimes. Often sort of perhaps feelings of loss, perhaps if the birth maybe wasn't what you expected or what you'd hoped for, or I talk to a lot of women about feelings of loss about feeding their babies. Perhaps breastfeeding has been harder than they imagined, or they weren't able to for lots of reasons, or perhaps the baby had to take some time in the special care baby unit, or there's lots of reasons why loss might be around a bit more as well. What else? I think it's just a general identity shift when you become a mum, and sort of working out who you are in this new realm, this new world, and that can be really emotionally challenging, I think. I think those are sort of main kind of headlines. I think just generally like feeling a lot more vulnerable, a lot more kind of
and it's totally normal, right? That because of this huge shift and all these changes, that a new mother would experience all these kinds of different emotions, not only be happy, but also feel, like you said, lost or really low, or yeah, any types of emotions. Really, it's like a roller coaster. But I've heard of a lot of people talk about the baby blues, but also the postpartum depression. Are there any signs that you would say a new mom or her partner or a family should maybe pay attention to, and maybe like recognize, and maybe so that it could require more attention or more professional support, maybe?
So the baby blues is incredibly normal. Most women will get some form of that, be it from a day, a few days, that sort of thing. If a person is feeling really low and overwhelmed after about 2 weeks after the baby is born, that's when to kind of seek some support. So the baby blues is like a hormonal shift that doesn't last very long on the whole. But any kind of mood changes that might be something more like postpartum anxiety or depression or something like that is sort of 2 weeks plus. And yeah, in terms of signs and things to look out for, yeah, it's sort of a persistent low mood, a persistent feeling of kind of flatness or downness, and also a persistent feeling of worry or anxiety as well, and often kind of coupled with behavioural shifts, so things like not eating so much, or eating too much, perhaps, appetite changes, not being able to rest when you get an opportunity for rest. Obviously, when you've got a small baby, getting up regularly, there's not so many, not so much sleeping involved, but if you had a chance to rest, but actually your heart's really racing, you're feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, then that could be something to indicate to kind of look out for. What else kind of things? I mean, oftentimes it doesn't really matter what the symptoms are, but how distressing somebody's finding them. So if it's kind of getting in the way, whatever it is, if it's getting in the way of caring for your baby, or doing the normal things that you'd want to do, if it feels like your mood, whatever that, the mood shift, whatever that is just feeling too overwhelming and too distressing, then that's probably around the right time to ask for some help from either midwives or GPs or whoever.
So you can contact, just a practical question, but in case that you are not feeling so well, like after these 2 weeks of feeling not like yourself, you can ask your midwife, you can ask your GP. Can you directly consult with another type of psychologist, or do you need a referral? Yes, you can.
Yeah. Oftentimes the first point of contact is the house arts or the midwife, because you might be seeing them anyway, and they're pretty good at asking questions about how you're feeling and how things are going and stuff. But yeah, I see people often in my practice who either have a referral from their GP or midwife, or just come direct saying, I've had a baby X amount of months ago and I feel not quite myself, and wanting to talk about it. Yeah.
I see. And a question from partners: what can partners actually do to support new mothers in the postpartum, to help them, support their emotional health? Are there things that family, friends, partner can do to make things easier?
I think it's
maybe smoother.
Often about noticing your partner well, or if it's a friend or a sister or whatever, kind of noticing when they don't quite see themselves, or maybe they're a bit more worried than you'd expect them to be about certain things, or I guess just kind of keeping an eye out, and that involves asking questions and making mental health and emotional health part of your relationships with people, especially when babies come along. Everyone's always how's the baby, do they sleep well, blah blah blah, but actually sort of stopping and checking in, like, how are you feeling, how's your mood feeling today, like, or if it was with a friend or something, encouraging them to come for a walk with you or get some fresh air, or supporting in those ways, I think. Yeah, I think from the partners I've spoken to, they often know that something's not quite right, and so I guess to just know your partner well and to look out for those things, I'd say.
Yeah, it's really about, I see. And for when you just had a baby, it's true that the attention is really on the newborn most of the time. Like you welcome visitors, everyone is like, oh, so cute. So it's but I think like when you don't know, when you are a friend and visiting a new mom and you never had baby before, you don't always know, like it doesn't come so easily, you know, to ask about your friend because you are so focused on the
and
baby.
they're exciting and they're new and they're shiny and they
exactly, and they're so cute. And as a mother yourself, as a new mom, are there things that also you can do to help take care of yourself and help maintain your emotional health? Would you have any maybe some tips or advice to give to new moms?
I think it would be along the lines of the things that have always helped you. You know, we all have periods of stress or, you know, times when we're a bit more worried or times when we're a bit more down, and you know, what tends to pick you up at those moments? Is it some exercise? I mean, obviously when you're newly postpartum or whatever, you're not going to be doing a marathon, but are there ways to kind of move your body that feel good? Is there you know, satisfying tasty foods that you like to eat that might boost your mood? Are there you know, speaking to a friend, speaking to a family member, telling them how you're feeling? You know, it's not always easy when you've got a tiny baby that needs you so much to get these things. But I suppose it's about taking into account your needs as well as the baby. So sort of thinking, do I need an amount of time, you know, away from the baby? Would 30 minutes of a walk on my own, would that help? You know, it will be individual depending on the individual, but yeah, it's kind of thinking what things have always helped me along the line, I think, is probably the best bet.
And at the beginning of this live, you were talking about the group therapy for moms that you are facilitating at the labor department. Would you like to tell us a bit more about
sure.
About this group?
This is now the 8th time I've run it, so it's been running since last April.
Oh wow! Amazing.
And yeah, it's a small group. I think this time we have 3 mums starting. There's one starting on Friday. I like to kind of, the maximum is about 5, which gives a chance for everyone to, you know, there's lots of space for talking. It's quite intimate and people seem to like that. And yeah, it's just a space for mums, either new mums, you know, with a small baby, or more seasoned mums, toddlers and children's, to kind of come together to talk about the more challenging aspects of being a mum, and to kind of find some strategies and some ways to sort of come together really. And the thing, the biggest change I've kind of noticed is, obviously I think the group content is really good, but people often talk about the fact that the biggest thing was that they felt less alone, and there was a big change from kind of doing something for themselves, like putting their own needs first, because you know, when you become a mum, often you're somewhat down the pecking order. So to actually take your own emotional well-being and, you know, every week come to something that feels like you're talking about yourself and your own needs and some of the challenges, and that seems to be really helpful. And also we give space, or I give space to some of the more tricky things to talk about, you know, things like rage, or things like not always liking your children, or not always liking your husband, or, you know, these sort of sticky situations that you're not always wanting to talk to somebody about in the playground, but you feel it and it doesn't feel nice, and it's like what to do with that feeling. And to also know that, you know, almost always people are in the same boat, that they might not have the same things hard, but they're struggling with their own version of hard. And then I put some, there's often different kind of tips and ways to sort of manage stress in the day-to-day and stuff. So it's it's something I'm really, really proud of. I really like offering that alongside the sort of one-to-one therapy work. It's I find that people seem to get quite a lot from it, which is good.
It really sounds
You're
amazing. I wish I had that
Carol.
When I was pregnant.
Yeah, so it's not just well,
my kids are really grown up.
Always postpartum, as I said.
I have so many questions actually. Are there can you talk about anything you have on your heart, or are there any? No, the first question is you can come every week. So for how many weeks?
Yeah, a block of 4 weeks.
Several sessions.
An hour and a half on a Friday afternoon for 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's that's what it is. And you can talk about anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
so I have.
Okay, so there is not a specific theme every week that pretty okay.
Theme. So it's all based on compassion focused therapy, which is about increasing compassion for yourself and sort of treating yourself kindly. And so it's all sort of based around that. But we talk about sort of stress and worry in one of the sessions, and a bit of sort of understanding of where that comes from from a psychological point of view. And we talk quite a lot about what you might have kind of inherited from your own parents in terms of your parenting. So things you might want to repeat, or things you don't really want to repeat, and kind of understanding the challenges of that. Often it's always actually I was going to say always, on the whole, mostly it's expats, international women, international mums. So there's it's in English,
of course.
And so kind of thinking about what it's like to be a parent away from your family of origin and in a different culture. I sort of encourage people to bring whatever it would always fit. We'd find whatever's the challenging thing.
And it's the same small group of moms that you meet
so
every Friday for 4 weeks. And then could it be longer?
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. Or several groups, or
okay. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of value in it being the same group and feeling, I noticed the trust building over the weeks, and people obviously open up and things. So I found that it's quite helpful to do it for 4 weeks, but almost always at the end of those 4 weeks people say, I wish it didn't have to end, sort of thing. So I have thought in my mind whether it would be helpful to have something carrying on, but it seems to be working okay, doing the 4 weeks with the same groups and sort of rolling it from there, taking a little time off over the summer, but pretty much it's been rolling now, which is good.
Fantastic. I can imagine how it can be, how it must be helpful for so many new moms, or even more not seasoned, but moms with older children, I mean. So you were saying there's a new session starting this Friday at the Labor Department in Amsterdam. If you are interested, I will put all the details in the post, and also, of course, if you are interested in learning more about Dr. Naomi's services, consults, you can check her profile on Parentally, or directly send her a DM on Instagram at the Good Enough Psychologist. Right, that's the right handle. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Naomi would like to add something to end this live.
What would I like to add? Thank you for coming. And I suppose it's really important to look after yourself when you're looking after somebody else. So that old adage about you can't fill from a half full cup, whatever, you really can't. So it's important to take some time to kind of take yourself seriously when you're caring for other people.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It was really interesting to talk to you, and I think we covered a lot of
Yeah,
interesting
thanks for having me.
things. So thank you so much for making the time. This live is recorded, so I will share it on the feed later on for everyone who missed it. No worries. And yeah, thank you everyone for
Bye.
watching, and have a nice evening. Bye bye.